Hook me up, please!
What if everything on the internet was true? That is not me talking. That is the official character description, straight from Rockstar Games, for one of the most fascinating support characters in the entire GTA 6 roster. We are talking about Cal Hampton. What he looks like, what his personality tells us about how he operates, his criminal connections, his value as an intelligence agent, and then at the end of this video, we're going deep into speculation territory about what will happen to Cal by the time the credits roll. Does he stay loyal? Does he flip? Or does he die? I have some theories, and by the end of this video, you should too. Let's get into it. Every GTA 6 story has its similar characters and archetypes. It has kingpins and criminal bosses, and its killers, its loud, chaotic forces of destruction. But who is going to be the most dangerous character in GTA 6? It's always the type you don't notice, a character who doesn't look like a threat, doesn't act like a criminal, but has all the intel and just might be the smartest and most dangerous person in the entire story. That person in GTA 6 could be Cal Hampton. Rockstar's official description of Cal Hampton reads like this. I'm going to read it slowly, because every word is deliberate. Jason's friend and a fellow associate of Brian's. Cal feels safest hanging at home, snooping on Coast Guard communications with a few beers and some private browser tabs open. Cal is at the low tide of America and happy there. Casual paranoia, loves his company, but his friend Jason has bigger plans. Right, so let's unpack this. Low tide of America. That is a staggering line. Rockstar did not write that by accident. Cal Hampton is not a man on the rise. He is not ambitious. He is not hungry for money or status or power. He is a man who found his comfortable little corner at the bottom of the social ladder and has actively decided, you know what, this is fine, I'm staying here. He is Jason Duval's friend. Capital F for friend. Not an associate, not a business contact, a friend. The distinction matters enormously in a GTA 6 game because the people closest to the protagonists are always the one who shape the story in the most personal ways. And he is connected to Brian Heater, Brian's boatworks, and the marina, which tells us already that Cal exists in a world that is partially criminal. He's involved with the smuggling, the water-based operations, the off-the-books movement of goods that flows through a Florida boatyard. Cal didn't stumble into that world. He's been sitting in it with his beer, casually watching for a long time. There's also one more line from Rockstar's materials that I think is criminally underappreciated. One of Cal's quoted sayings is, "There are way too many birds flying around in perfect formation." That line is telling us exactly what you need to know about how Cal Hampton's brain works. He sees patterns where others see noise. He questions things that most people accept without thought. While that makes him seem a little eccentric and maybe even unhinged, that quality in the world of GTA 6's criminal story is going to be incredibly valuable. Section 2. What does Cal look like? What kind of image does he give off? Let's talk about the visual, because in Rockstar Games, how a character looks is always intentional. Every piece of clothing, every hairstyle, every physical choice is a piece of storytelling. Cal Hampton's signature look, as described by the community and glimpsed in the trailers, centers on two things: a bucket hat and an alien-themed Hawaiian shirt. Now, at first glance, that sounds like comic relief, and it partly is. Rockstar intends Cal to have a visual identity that immediately communicates this guy is not a threat, he is not dangerous, and he is not a hardened criminal. He is the slightly strange friend who knows too much about government surveillance and not enough about social norms. Let's double back to that alien Hawaiian shirt for a second. It's a very specific clothing choice. It signals that Cal's worldview literally extends beyond the mundane. He believes there is more going on beneath the surface of reality than most people can see. He wears his conspiracy theorist credentials on his chest literally. The bucket hat also adds another layer. It's casual, it keeps him low profile. It's the hat of a man who is trying not to be seen, which tracks perfectly with someone who spends his days monitoring communications and browsing the internet in private tabs. Cal is visually coded as an outsider, someone who doesn't fit into the Vice City world of flashy cars and designer suits. He is the man at the edge of the party, nursing a drink, noticing everything, and probably more dangerous for it. And from what we can see in the trailers, he is physically laid back too. Slouched, comfortable, the pool floaty scene, Cal lounging around with a drink, completely unbothered, tells you this man is at peace with his existence, which again, in a GTA game full of people clawing for power and money, that makes him stand out dramatically. Chapter 3. Cal and Jason, the friendship that matters. Here's where I think Cal Hampton's significance truly comes into focus. In GTA 5, we had three protagonists who were connected by business, circumstances, and tension. The relationship was loaded with distrust, jealousy, and competing ambitions. Even the friendship between Michael and Trevor was fractured and complicated. With GTA 6, Rockstar has built the central dynamic around Jason and Lucia, a relationship that is equal parts partnership and romance. But beyond Lucia, the people in Jason's inner circle are going to define his world in a different way. Cal is described as specifically Jason's friend, not his boss, not his fixer, his friend. That is rare in the GTA universe, genuine friendship. Two guys who have known each other for years, who have shared beers and bad decisions and conversations about whether birds or government drones, and who, despite their wildly different directions their lives are taking, still show up for each other. Casual paranoia loves company. That line from Rockstar's official description is beautiful. It implies that at some point, Jason and Cal bonded over a shared worldview, a suspicion of institutions, a distrust of authority, a belief that the system is rigged. Jason has taken that same cynicism and channeled it into action. Jason has bigger plans. He wants to do something about it. He wants to move, to hustle, to build something. And that difference, the tension between a man who is content to watch the world and a man determined to change his position in it, is going to be the engine of their friendship throughout this game. Cal is Jason's anchor to who he was before things got complicated, and in a story about crime and ambition, that kind of anchor can be a lifeline, or it can be a chain around your leg. Section 4. Cal's Criminal World. Crime, Comms, and the Coast Guard. Now let's get into the criminal dimension, because Cal is not just some harmless conspiracy nut. He is embedded in a world that has serious criminal infrastructure running through it. He is an associate of Brian Heater. Brian's operation, Brian's Boat Works and Marina, is the kind of cover business that the GTA universe has always used brilliantly. On the surface, a boatyard, a place where boats are stored, repaired, serviced, nothing suspicious. Underneath that, it's a different conversation. Florida's coastline has historically been one of the most active smuggling corridors in the entire United States. Drugs, weapons, contraband, and every variety has moved through the waterways for decades. Brian's Boatworks exists in that world, and Cal, by extension, also exists in that world. But Cal's specific contribution is not muscle or logistics, it's intelligence. He is, according to Rockstar's own description, actively snooping on Coast Guard communications. Let me be precise about what that means in the context of criminal operations. The Coast Guard coordinates maritime law enforcement. They communicate about patrol routes, interceptions, suspicious vessel reports, offshore operations. If you're running a smuggling operation out of a Florida marina and you have a friend who monitors Coast Guard comms in real time, you have an enormous operational advantage. You know when patrols are active, you know when a particular stretch of coast is clear, and you know when law enforcement has been tipped off about a boat coming in. You know when to move and when to stay put. Cal Hampton is functionally a signals intelligence asset. He's the kind of guy who in any military or law enforcement context would be sitting in a room full of screens, but instead he's doing exactly what he does for fun at home, except he does it for the criminal enterprise at Brian's Marina. The difference between Cal and a professional is Cal does this wearing an alien Hawaiian shirt with a beer in his hand, which honestly might make him more effective because nobody is looking at him twice. Rockstar also specifically mentioned private browser tabs in Cal's description. In a game that is going to engage heavily with social media culture, GTA 6's world is soaked in it. Private browser tabs implies Cal is accessing things he doesn't want tracked. Forums, dark corners of the internet, places where information flows that hasn't been filtered by the mainstream. In a story about crime in Vice City, the most dangerous information doesn't always come from the street. Sometimes it comes from a tip on an obscure forum that nobody else was paying attention to. Cal Hampton pays attention. That is his superpower, and it'll be interesting to see whether that kind of information he gets from his browser tabs will be his shining moment or his downfall. Chapter 5. Cal is an intelligence asset, the most valuable man in the room. I think the community has underestimated just how strategically important Cal Hampton could be across the entire GTA 6 story. Think about the GTA 5 equivalent, Lester Crest. Lester was a mission architect, the planner, the man behind the curtain who made the biggest heist possible. He was the intelligence, he was the logistics, and he was invaluable. Cal Hampton has every ingredient to fill a similar role, but where Lester was methodical and business-minded, Cal is erratic and paranoid, and that makes him simultaneously more interesting and potentially less reliable. Here's what Cal brings to the table as an intelligence asset. First, we have real-time maritime surveillance. As we discussed, Coast Guard comms, patrol routes, water movements. If Jason and Lucia are running operations that involve the coast, and in Florida, most operations eventually do involve the coast, Cal's monitoring is mission critical. Second, law enforcement pattern recognition. Cal's brain is wired to find patterns. That is what conspiracy thinking actually is at its core, the identification of patterns in information. The problem for conspiracy theorists is they often find patterns that aren't actually there. But in a criminal context, there are real patterns. There are real conspiracies. There are actual operations being run against them. Cal's instinct to look beneath the surface is in this world literally correct. Third, digital intelligence. Private browser tabs, forum access, the dark corners of the internet. In a GTA 6 world saturated with social media and surveillance capitalism, someone who knows how to navigate the parts of the internet that aren't indexed, aren't tracked, and aren't monitored, that person can find information that nobody else can access. Number 4. This is the one I think people overlook. Cal's value is precisely his invisibility. He is not on anyone's radar. He doesn't look like a criminal asset. He looks like the guy at the low tide of America, happy where he is. Law enforcement doesn't look twice at him. Rival criminal organizations don't see him as a threat. He can gather intelligence in plain sight because nobody is looking for what they don't expect to find. In heist planning, in avoiding law enforcement, in understanding the movements of rival crews, in knowing when a deal is actually a setup. Cal Hampton's intelligence function could be the difference between Jason and Lucia succeeding or getting caught. He's not the guy pulling the trigger, he's the guy who tells you where to point. Section 6. Speculation. What is Cal's fate? I want to be clear here. Everything from here on is speculation. We do not know Cal Hampton's fate. The game doesn't come out till November 19th. But based on everything we know about his character, his role, his relationship with Jason, and Rockstar's storytelling history, I have 3 distinct theories about how Cal's story ends. I'm going to give you all 3 because I genuinely believe any one of them could be true. Theory 1. Cal stays loyal and becomes essential. The first possibility is the one that is probably the most satisfying and also the most straightforward. Cal Hampton is exactly what he appears to be. A loyal, deeply weird, genuinely brilliant friend who sticks by Jason no matter what, and whose skills over the course of the story become increasingly vital to their survival. Think about how this arc would work. Jason starts off treating Cal like a sounding board, a mate he vents to, someone who grounds him when things get heavy. But as the story escalates, as Jason and Lucia's criminal enterprise grows, and the stakes rise, and more powerful enemies start closing in, Cal's Coast Guard monitoring, his pattern recognition, his off-grid intelligence network starts being the difference maker. Missions where Cal warns them about a Coast Guard patrol at the last second, intel about a rival crew's movements that Cal spotted in a forum post 3 days before anyone else knew, a piece of information from a private channel that blows open a major plot point. And the emotional payoff at the end, after everything, the chaos, the violence, the loss, Cal is still there, on his couch, beer in hand, alien shirt, watching his screens. The one constant in Jason's world that never changed, never betrayed him, never wanted more than what he had. In a game full of people who will stab you in the back in the moment it's convenient for them, Cal's complete lack of ambition, his contentment at the low tide of America, might be the thing that makes him the only person Jason can truly trust. That's a beautiful character conclusion, and would make Cal one of the most beloved NPCs in Rockstar history. Theory number 2. Cal gets killed, and it changes everything. The second theory is the one that Rockstar would use if they wanted to hit you in the chest. Cal dies. Not as a villain's death, not through his own betrayal, but as a consequence of Jason's ambition and actions. Because remember, Rockstar was very deliberate about one thing in Cal's description. Casual paranoia loves company, but his friend Jason has bigger plans. Cal warned them. He always worried. He was cautious. He was the voice of reason, the guy who said, "Are we sure? Are we sure we really want to do this?" before every big move. And throughout the story, Jason probably overruled him because Jason has bigger plans. And then one day those bigger plans catch up to them. A rival crew, a law enforcement crackdown, a betrayal from someone else in their circle, and Cal, who is just sitting at home, snooping on comms, living his quiet life, gets caught in the crossfire. He is collateral damage for Jason's ambition. He is the price of those bigger plans. In the tradition of Rockstar storytelling, think Brian in GTA 4, think Johnny Klesbits, think Wade in GTA 5 narrowly escaping. Rockstar has always understood that the most devastating story beats come from removing the character the player has grown the most comfortable with, the one who made them laugh, the one who made them feel safe. If Cal Hampton dies mid-game, in a moment designed to horrify the player and devastate Jason, everything changes. Jason's motivation shifts, the tone shifts, and the player suddenly understands the real cost of the criminal life in a way that no action sequence could communicate. Cal's death would be GTA 6's gut punch moment. Theory 3. Cal turns by accident or by force. The reluctant traitor. And now the most complicated theory, the one I find the most psychologically interesting. What if Cal doesn't betray Jason by choice, but by breaking point? Here's the setup. Cal's paranoia gets the best of him, which has always been a quirk, a running joke, but he starts to crack under the weight of what he is witnessing. As Jason and Lucia's operation grows, the stakes grow with it. The things Cal monitors stop being abstract signals on a screen. People start dying, law enforcement closes in, powerful, genuinely dangerous people start looking in their direction. And Cal, who is described as someone who feels safest at home, who is the caution voice of reason, who has always been the ones pumping the brakes, starts to genuinely fall apart. At one point does Cal's paranoia tip from asset to liability. Here's where it gets dark. There are a few ways this goes. Law enforcement gets to Cal, maybe they've been watching the marina, maybe they intercept his comms, and when they confront him, Cal's fear overrides his loyalty. He gives them something, not out of malice, but out of terror, and suddenly Jason is compromised by the friend who was supposed to be the one keeping them safe. Or rival criminals find out about Cal's intelligence capabilities and leverage him. Threaten his life, threaten someone he cares about, force him to feed information in the wrong direction. Cal becomes a double agent, not because he wants to, because he sees no other way out. Or, and this is the most tragic version, Cal's conspiracy thinking becomes so acute, so overwhelming, that he starts to believe that Jason is the threat, that Jason's ambition has made him dangerous, that the people after them are not the enemy, but Jason is. His paranoia turns inward against his own friend. In any of these scenarios, the betrayal isn't cold-blooded, it isn't ruthless, it's the saddest kind of betrayal there is. A good man, pushed beyond what he can handle, who breaks in the worst possible moment. And more often than not, Rockstar Games specializes in exactly that kind of tragedy and tone in their games. So, to sum it all up, Cal Hampton, the man with the bucket hat and the alien Hawaiian shirt, snooping on Coast Guard comms with a beer in his hand. He's not the flashiest character, he'll not be the one firing rockets at helicopters, or leading a crew through a major heist at gunpoint. He will not be the most powerful person in the room. But he is going to be one of the most important. Because in the story of Jason Duval, a man with bigger plans, a man moving upwards through the criminal world of Vice City, Cal Hampton represents everything Jason is leaving behind, and everything Jason needs to remember. Cal is the conscious, the anchor, the warning system. Both literal with his Coast Guard monitoring, and emotional with his, are we sure this is going to work, and we should think about this energy. He could be the loyal friend who stays to the end and become Jason's most valuable weapon. He could be the tragedy, the loss that defines the third act and breaks Jason open. Or he could be the reluctant traitor, not out of greed or malice, but out of fear. Pushed past his limits by a world that got bigger and more dangerous than he ever signed up for. All three of those outcomes tell us something profound about the world Rockstar is building, and whichever one it is, Cal Hampton's story is going to matter. By the time GTA 6 ends, people are going to be talking about Cal Hampton the same way they talked about Wade, the same way they talked about Brad, and the same way they talk about every Rockstar character who seems like a background player until the moment they weren't. The psychopaths are in charge. Get used to it. Maybe Cal was right all along. That about finishes our deep dive on Cal Hampton. This series exists to go deep on characters, regions, and stories that are going to define this game. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button. It genuinely helps out the channel more than you know. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked today's video, please consider subscribing at Grand Gaming Grove. It really helps out the channel. We're going to have more deep dives on characters, regions, and stories in the GTA 6 universe to come. Also, please leave a comment below. Let us know which Cal theory was your favorite. See you soon in Vice City. Thanks for being here.
Got friends, can you hook me up, please? Got friends, can you hook me up, please?